Hiya boys, welcome back to Toku Talks, the show where I talk about Toku. Yes! Welcome back to the second episode of the online show where I talk about tokusatsu topics. And today, I'm going to be talking about me, like the little self-absorbed prick that I am. I realise that I haven't actually spoken about how I got into Toku at all, so I'm going to be speaking a little bit about that today, just because it's easy content to pump out an hour before I have a driving lesson. So, this is going to be a bit of a side rant, but it's kind of necessary to explain how I got into Toku. So, basically, in case if you don't know, I was born with Italian and Caribbean heritage. Oh yeah, baby, I'm mixed. And I know what you're thinking. No way the guy behind the mic right now who's speaking is mixed. And yeah, I'm fully aware I sound like some Christian youth club campaigner who is probably whiter than 100% real mayonnaise. But no, I'm actually mixed. Whoops. Yeah, and ever since I learned this, I kind of had a bit of a fascination with different cultures. And when I was younger, Japan always kind of just seemed the most interesting to me. Now, before I carry on, if you're just wondering in the off chance that if it ever gets awkward for me having to explain to people that I'm mixed whilst looking like a bag of condensed milk, trust me, it's an awkward conversation to have with people, but no, I pushed through it like a hero. Anyway, back in 2013, a little show called Power Rangers Megaforce was airing. Oh, God. Going back and watching Megaforce now, just even trying to find footage for it for this video, actually gave me like PTSD war level flashbacks. Surprisingly enough, when you're like 6 years old and watching this show, you don't realize how cataclysmically shit it is. But anyway, in one of the episodes, there was a sign that was written in katakana, I think. And being the nerd I recognized that the sign was written in katakana. So I googled, is Power Rangers filmed in Japan? And then I found out about Sentai after Google told me no. But then one of the like little boxes underneath the answers had said, what is Japanese Power Rangers? You know what? I don't think my story could get any more generic if it tried. And then, somehow, don't ask me how, somehow, I ended up finding Sport Ranger on, like, YouTube when I was 6. Now, I don't actually know if the uploads I was watching had subs. As far as I can tell, no, like, English-speaking groups have ever subbed the show, so maybe that's just something I made up. But yeah, I knew about Sport Ranger way before I made my video on it back in the day. In fact, Sport Ranger was the first, like, Toku I'd seen. And then one thing led into another, and I somehow, some way ended up finding out about Armor Hero. And, like, 6-year-old me knew it was, like, an Asian production. But, like, 6-year-old me thought that it must have been American because it had a feature-length film. And as we all know, the only people who are even remotely competent in producing films are Americans, apparently. So I just assumed that they hired Asian-American actors because Armor Hero, at least the first season, had one of those awful, like, Singaporean English dubs. So I just assumed everyone in the show was Asian American, and I fucking loved it. I was scared shitless by it, but I loved it. This then led me on to, I think, catch Kamen Rider Wizard, or like clips of it being uploaded to YouTube back when it first aired. Yes, I've actually been around that long. I don't really remember much from Wizard, to be honest. Gaim I definitely did catch whilst it was airing. Well, I say whilst it was airing, but one thing I haven't actually spoken about is that I didn't watch any like Rider or Sentai until late last year because I had a laptop that was specifically only used for schoolwork that was so bad that it couldn't even run YouTube without crashing. So I basically had no way of watching these shows. And years went by, and I kind of fell out of the Toku loop until, Geo finished, and then I just didn't watch any or didn't think about it. The main reason for that was because I went up to secondary school, and in secondary school, especially in British secondary schools, there tends to be a reputation that, like, the kids who don't really conform get bullied the shit out of. So I felt a certain pressure to fit in, and I basically stopped watching because I thought if anyone found out that I was into, like, Power Rangers and stuff, that they'd bully the fuck out of me. So I didn't watch any Toku nor keep up with any Toku at all until, like, Dawn Brothers started airing. And you know how there's one episode in Dawn Brothers where, like, Taro dies? I remember watching someone do a review on that, and I thought, oh my god, what have I missed, bro? Like, what have I missed? I need to get back into this. And then I dropped Toku for another year. So, you know, I missed a lot. I missed the finale of Dawn Brothers, and then King Oja was halfway through airing when I looked up, how do I watch Toku? Because I started getting back into it, and yeah, that was that, basically. So then I started experimenting with, like, different Sentai on different sites that allowed you to watch directly. And this means that because I'm an idiot, I tried to watch everything chronologically. So the site had everything up until Live Man. So my first Sentai was Live Man. And I tried to watch everything through from Live Man to King Oja. And then I realized I can't do this. So I tried to watch Turbo Ranger, which is still one of the worst shows I think I've ever watched. I got a decent way through 5-Man, which I've pretty much finished. And then finally, I finished Jetman like 2 years ago over summer. And that was pretty much that. And since then, I've finished 9 other Sentai, and I finished 7 Rider shows. 0 Ultraman shows, though. And I'll explain why right now. Ultraman is low-key the type of show that 8-year-old me would have woken up and watched every Saturday morning. But now I low-key just can't get myself into it. It's not like I haven't watched any Ultraman. I've watched 3 episodes of Tiger, 1 of the original show, 2 of Nexus, and 1 of Zet. And to be honest, I was just forcing myself to try and like a majority of the shows. Nexus was so slow-paced that I actually watched a family member be born and die in the time it took me to finish 2 episodes. The pacing was that slow. Tiger managed to somehow take up 2 hours of my time on a Saturday and still somehow have no substance in it, which is fucking crazy. I actually really liked Zed. It was really good, actually. And the original is actually really good for something made in the 60s. But the thing is I just don't think it's for me. I think I prefer something that's a lot higher action. And I think Ultraman is just 2 guys wrestling in a suit. And it doesn't really come off very well. Like, the fights don't flow very well. I love how practical it all is. I think that's an element that's really good, and I actually prefer over Rider and Sentai. There's less CGI, but overall, there's a tiny part of me that wants to give it, like, a second chance. And I also really like how Ultraman has this big establishing lore, and, you know, everyone gets given a backstory. and there's like 9 million spin-offs that explain random ass characters, you know. I love the alien designs, and I'm not going to sit here and act like Ultraman isn't the singular most influential thing to come out of Japan ever, because like pretty much any time you see a crucifixion scene in a piece of Japanese media, it's literally a direct reference to Ultraman. But me personally, it's not really my thing. I think maybe if there was more character drama, because Ultraman seems to be slightly more episodic than Rider and Sentai. I can't really put my finger on why I don't really vibe with Ultraman, but I feel like there's no point in forcing myself to try and like Ultraman, and unfortunately I don't, but that's how some Toku are, you know? Anyway, that's the story of how I got into Toku. I hope you all enjoyed. This is the second episode of Toku Talks. I'm hoping I could pump out at least 5 more episodes before the end of summer, but I'd actually need topics to talk about, so, you know, beats me. Obviously, these videos don't really take that long to make, which is why I'm going to try and pump them out. But I also kind of want to make a video series on Kamen Rider builds, because that's what I recently just finished. But to be honest, the amount of times I've done an outro to a video and said I wanted to make a video on one topic and it's never happened has actually been insane. So don't hold me to my word on a build video series actually coming out. Anyway, that's me done for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.